I didn't want anybody to die or, have a fiery crash and burn in eternal hell or anything like that. But I just thought, you don't need to be in a hurry, guys. Come on. So, anyway, my wife calmed me down. Hi, and welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. I'm Rick Reed.
And I am Dan Vikstrom. I'm joining Rick today. How are you doing, Rick? And what did you want to talk about today? It was a day in the life of one Richard John Reed.
Wow, I had some errands to run today, so it's a retired boomer running errands when I'm not used to doing that. So, and I had some observations that I'd like to share. I think the audience can relate to a lot of those. And first of all, Dan, thanks for being on. It's good to have you back. It's been a few episodes to have my boomer buddy core guy back. Yeah, today, the day started where I needed the car. Well, since I had a health thing and it was COVID era and all that, we actually got rid of 2 cars and now we're down to 1 car and we're living fine with that. My wife still works, so she usually takes it. And I'm here usually to just mess in my own mind. But today I got to drive her to work so I could have the car to run errands. And one thing I'm not used to, Dan, is rush hour. I used to hate it, and now today I found out why. Driving along, speed limit, going down the county road, left-hand turn lane to get onto an interstate. 2 cars cut me off because they had to get onto that highway before me, right? That kind of set me off a little bit, because I'm normally relaxed now, right? And you could
No,
relate to that, right?
yeah, but you get set off easy driving. that goes way back.
Well, I used to be real competitive during rush hour and just stupid stuff, but
I had
I
all
can tell I'm retired now. Let's put it.
that's when we worked together, and I remember all those times when we're going to lunch and somebody
Yeah, yeah.
off. Oh, you wanted revenge.
I didn't want anybody to die or, have a fiery crash and burn in eternal hell or anything like that. But I just thought, you don't need to be in a hurry, guys. Come on. So
Yeah.
anyway, my wife calmed me down. She said, Rick, big deal. And I go, you're right. You're right. You're right. And so I dropped her off. And what did I do? Beautiful day, blue sky, right? I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to pick out a few flowers, bird feeder, bird seed,
Yeah.
just have a little fun there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did. I went in there, and one thing I observed, I couldn't help but observe and hear the PA system. You know what it was playing loud at 8:30 in the morning? We're not going to take it. Twisted Sister. I thought, wow, things have really changed.
I wonder if the manager not happy with his job right now.
Well, I just thought, well, things have really changed. It was really loud, and I even went out into the garden area to look for a new hose and everything, and it was cranked. There's Dee Snider just singing out that glam rock, pop metal, glam rock, whatever you want to call it, from '84. Actually, I kind of was bopping my head, and it gave me a surge of energy as I'm with all the seniors at Home Depot and all the tradesmen there to get the supplies they needed.
Well, good. Yeah, yeah. I would have enjoyed listening to that in there.
And
Told me a little story about you meeting Dee and kind of unintentionally insulting him. Do you want to relate that to the audience?
yes, as you know, first of all, for those of you that have seen some of our episodes, I used to have a trivia game called For the Record. And there were 2 editions. There was a 50s, 60s, 70s edition. And then with demand, I did an 80s and 90s edition. Well, the 80s and 90s edition wasn't quite as fun for me because it wasn't really my cup of tea, 1985 on. But anyway, I researched and did that. And I had a marketing opportunity to go to the state fair in Minnesota, which is a big deal, right? Someone reached out for me from Mix 104. They played 80s, 90s music. So they asked me to go there. You know, they gave me the sweatshirt with the logo and everything on it. And so I'm all set up there so fairgoers can come by and I can ask them trivia questions and they can get out of the sun for a little bit. And they had a special guest on, Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. And he was sitting there talking to people and it was on the air and he stayed there, talk a little bit with people. And I went over to him. I go, hey, Dee, hey, you want to sign one of these trivia cards? You're in my game. He goes, cool. I'm in your game. Yeah. What's it called? For the record, 80s, 90s. Really? And I handed him the card in the category he's in, one hit wonder. He looked at it and he goes, one hit wonder? Why would I sign this? I go, you were a one hit wonder. You hit 21. You were in the top 40. That was the only one in the top 40. He goes, he filled it out and kind of threw it back at me. So I kind of pissed off Dee Snider at the state fair.
Uh, well, how did we go from Home Depot to Dee Snider? Oh, I know, because it was playing their song. As everybody knows who lives up in the upper Midwest, this is a time of year everybody goes to Home Depot or Menards and gets their stuff for their backyard, for their yards, to get their yards going. Plants done, mulch to buy, tools, garden
It's the
tools.
time of year, definitely.
Yep.
One other story, the previous time I was there with my wife, the rabbits are bad and they're eating up the hostas and any plants she seemed to love, they get nibbled down to nothing. So she wanted to get some of that rabbit deer repellent.
Yep.
So I was in a aisle close by and all of a sudden I hear this thud and I look over and she handed me a canister of this repellent and I look and one of those had dropped. It must have had the cap loosened, hit the floor at the perfect angle, exploded all over her pants and her shoes. I don't know if that has coyote urine in it or what, but it is the worst. It's almost like your feet when we roomed together in college. Almost. It's pretty bad. So she said, I'm going to run to the restroom, see if I can wash this off, water it down. And, and so she left and I was looking for an attendant to tell him about it. And I went a couple aisles over and then by the time I came back, it was fenced off and somebody had the unfortunate problem of having to clean that up. And my wife came back and didn't smell any better at all. So she went out to the car and then I felt obligated to hurry up and get what I needed and go back out there. But yeah, that was the previous visit. But
Yeah.
bird feeders today, I actually got one for hummingbirds, and I understand you know something about that. You have one?
Yeah, I do have one, and I took mine out today. I just got back up to Wisconsin and from Texas, and so kind of did some yard work today. Took the hummingbird feeder out. I hang it on my deck between our two doors that go out onto the deck, but I hadn't put any food in it. So I'm sitting there on the deck, and all of a sudden a hummingbird comes up, and I was surprised.
Oh,
And he lands on it. He checks it out. Oh, there's no food, so he left. So I said, "Oh shoot, I gotta get some food. There, the hummingbirds are back already, or at least one of them." So I went back in and I got colored sugar and mixed it up and filled it. And the way it is, you have to turn it upside down to fill it, and then turn it right side up for it to drop down, and then to the feeder spots for where
yeah.
they can do the nectar. Well, I walk out. I didn't want to turn that over in the house and possibly spill some in the house. So I walked out to the deck and onto the lawn, turned it over there, and boom, a hummingbird was right there, just right there in my face, like, "Ooh, here it is, And it scared me. I went, whoa, because they will fly right up. And I've had them do this. They'll fly right up to you
Oh yeah.
very, very fast, like a dragonfly or something, and just stop. And they're
Yeah.
flying on you about 3 feet from you and looking at you, and then they zoom, take off. So anyway, I went and hung it up where it belongs, and I'm waiting for them to come back. He did come back once. I was sitting kind of underneath it. I wanted to get a photograph of it above me, but he didn't come back when I had the camera ready. But anyway, I'm glad to see the hummingbird back because my wife Kim, who passed away, always said she wanted to come back as a hummingbird. So,
Oh man, I didn't know that.
yeah. So
Awesome.
she, so our little hummingbird came by today and said hello. So hopefully we'll have a nice, long, enjoyable summer together here again. On my feeder, they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
I got one for my wife. It was Mother's Day yesterday. We're recording the day after Mother's Day. She loves hummingbirds. And so I surprised her with one. And it's the mason jar kind where you just screw the top off, you fill it up, and then you screw it up, and it's got a hanger attached to it. So I didn't have to do the flip. I've done that before, and I always F it up, So yeah, so we'll see how that works. I know we had one looking around because a couple of years ago we had one.
They do travel. They go way down south. I mean, way down past Texas. We get them in wintertime. One of my friends, Minnesota Mike, you know Mike,
Yeah, yeah.
down there, he's got a couple of hummingbird feeders in his fruit trees. They'd stop by there too on a regular basis.
Nature is so amazing. And now that I'm retired, you've heard the expression smell the roses. Well, look, I get set off just driving my wife to work. I don't like that anymore. We had that checklist, every day you got to get stuff done, get stuff, all that
Yep.
pressure. Our friend Quincy, he said, when you're retired, it's F the shoulds, forget the shoulds. You don't have shoulds anymore. It's just stuff to do when you get to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought that was so wise of Quincy to say that.
I hear you on the traffic though, Rick, because I had to go through downtown Minneapolis when we went to the Twins game last Thursday and
Yeah.
had a great time. 5 of us guys went and old friends. But I had to drive through downtown Minneapolis on 7th Street and it was what 11:30 in the morning and the street was just jammed.
Hmm.
And normally in the past, if you're down there that time of day, you could get around because we used to ride billboards in our business down there.
Yeah.
And that was a good time of day to be down there. But boy, the traffic is just thick now down there. But that's the way it is. The city keeps growing and growing, and the road systems don't expand with
It's,
them.
no, it's just incredible to me how people have their own agenda. It's instant gratification now, got to, which takes me to my next errand. I had to go to Costco. By this time, I picked my wife up from work and she had to get stuff for work. So she was kind of still working, but we went to Costco, so here it goes again, trying to get a parking spot, right? You know, competition.
Good luck. Yeah.
Even when you walk in the door, you walk into the entrance door, people are trying to get through the entrance as an outdoor, and then you go and grab a cart, you're about to reach one, and then somebody with a cart cuts in front of you, literally almost hits my hand, because they had their own agenda. They're oblivious. So, now think of how my day started, Dan. I'm used to, just kind of hanging out at home, no real pressure. And now I'm in the throng of Costco. And
Uh,
then you go in there and, people just, they're crisscrossing. Cart etiquette is non existent,
that is,
or very few people practice it. And the ones that do not get rewarded for doing it.
yeah. Everybody's in such a darn hurry, and I guess I can understand younger people with families, and they're trying to do something at lunchtime at work or whatever. Boy, it is a hectic pace down there, and that's one reason why like living out in the country now.
Yeah.
Uh, so I,
Diagonal parking in the aisle. And then, as you know, they do food demos. So people are just so excited to try to get one of those that the carts just kind of go out into the main aisle and it's single file for two ways. And let me back up here, Dan. As you know, the audience may not know, but I grew up in a family where my dad was a grocery manager. Okay. And my first job was a stock boy carryout. So I used to always be around people with carts in aisles, and it seemed like the etiquette was a lot better back then. Maybe not, but this
Nah,
this this is cart etiquette gone bad on steroids
yeah,
at Costco.
I had never heard the term cart etiquette, but there is cart etiquette, you know. And you're right. You're right. People would be a little less of a hurry, I guess, in the olden days. Olden days. But
We kind of sound like old curmudgeons now, at least I do. We're older now. We can see around corners. We can watch somebody going, oh, that's not going to end good. Crash. So I had the cart pulled over. I found a spot that seemed pretty safe. I tried not to take up a lot of space and waiting for my wife to get something and bring it down. And then I caught a shadow behind me and I looked and somebody was reaching because I was down by the corner. They were reaching for something. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to get out of the way, but I got in your way. I'm sorry. And they said, that's okay. No problem. And that's what I'm used to.
yeah,
But I didn't see a lot of that there. Just people
just
don't give a hoot.
the small kindnesses go a long way.
Yeah.
Small
Yeah.
kindnesses go a long way. Um, it's called good manners, you know.
And then after that, we couldn't wait to get out of there, right? You go there for lower prices and in bulk, right? This is probably a good time for you to talk about what you've seen since you came back from wintering in Texas. Now that you're back in northern Wisconsin, you had to go get some food, right?
Oh yeah. Well, after the Twins game on Thursday, I drove back up here. It's about a 2-hour drive from the Twins stadium. Stopped at Walmart on the way because I had just gotten back the previous Sunday from Texas, so I didn't have a lot of food, and I had people coming up the next day that were going to be helping me put my dock in this weekend. So prices, I'm glad I've stopped at Walmart because the local grocers up here are very expensive. You know, prices have been gone up even more, higher than they were when I left 6 months ago. So that's one impression I had when we got up here is a very high price grocery store. But at least I didn't have anybody breathing down my tailpipe in
Yeah.
the grocery aisles.
The reason they're expensive, besides the way the economy is they have to have higher because they don't have the buying power. It's disheartening though to see how much they've gone up since you went down to Texas and came
Yeah,
back.
I did notice that. You know, certain things are even more expensive than they were. Um, but
Mhm.
be that as may, it's good to be back up here. It's getting awful hot in Texas, so I'm glad now to be back up here. And we had a great time at the ball game on Thursday, and hopefully
Yeah.
we'll do it again.
Hey, if you're a subscriber and you're here, we're glad you're here. Thanks for coming back again and again. We're always looking for content ideas as well. Today it's kind of a Rick rant and a catch up with my buddy Dan now that he's back in the area. But we talk about a lot of things. We talk about TV shows. We talk about music. We talk about history. Dan did a great episode on the South Pacific in World War II. We plan on doing more of those too. But go ahead and in the comment section below on YouTube, go ahead and put a comment in there. We'd love to hear from you. And also share with your friends, and subscribe. There's a subscribe button lower right, and then also you can hear us audio on Spotify, Buzzsprout, and other podcast locations. So we are glad you're here. And if you're new, welcome, because we've got a stable of buddies that we like to get together, and we're pretty knowledgeable on a lot of things, maybe not experts. Dan's an expert on a couple of things, I can tell you that. World War II, other history, and the Rolling Stones. So we want to get an episode of the Dan talking about the Rolling Stones. I've had other guests on talking about the Beatles. We got to give the Stones their love too.
Yeah, be happy to do that. We're gonna go. My son and I are gonna go see him in Chicago at the end of June. So looking forward to that. They're a one of a kind band, and I guess just because I happened to pick them as my favorite band, I'm very fortunate because they're still rock. They're still rolling after all these years.
Oh yeah, remember when I sent you that picture of Keith on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine?
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, so this edition has been about a day in the life of a retired guy doing his errands. I'm going to wind up here, Dan, with talking about my wife and I's last stop. We
Oh,
went to a Dollar General store, which I hardly ever do, and went in there, and it's a small cluttered store, but I was worn out. I was exhausted. The common courtesy, all that stuff. I was kind of napping a little bit, and my wife had gotten something for work again in there, and then I had some stuff. We waited in line, got to the counter. She set her thing down, and then put a divider, and then I had our stuff here. And then she got through, and I must have just dozed off or lost my focus. And my wife got my attention. I go, yeah, what? And she goes, there's a guy with an armload of stuff. Move so he can set it down. And I'm like, oh, sir. So here I am, criticizing, getting ticked off at other people, and I'm space. So but maybe end it this way, like give people a break, right? We don't know what they're going through. I'm
yeah.
a I'm a low key retired guy now that went up, got a little wound up, and I just got to take a chill pill, don't I?
Yeah, we all got to do that. We all got to do that. Life is too short to take it too seriously all the time.
So that made me feel bad, Dan, and it also reminded me of what my nephew says to me. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Well, Dan, thanks for joining me today, and I can't wait to go up and see you up there, relax even more. Again, if you have any comments or anything you want to hear, let us know. And you can also email us at myboomerbuddies4@gmail.com, myboomerbuddies4@gmail.com. And we'd love to get some input from you. Like I said before on YouTube, subscribe, share, and like. We would really love to have you come here every week. We publish every Thursday. So, Dan, closing thoughts?
Looking forward to you and Chaz, and maybe get some other guys to come up too, and we can putt around on a pontoon, maybe throw a line in and put some good loud music on.
Maybe some Twisted Sister?
Sure, sure.
No. Well, you go ahead. I'm going to listen to the Southern rock. I'm kind of liking yacht rock a little bit more. So
There you go.
I guess I'm getting older, but I still feel pretty young. So on behalf of Dan Vikstrom, I'm Rick Reed. Thanks for joining, and until next time, we'll
See you around the block.
If you enjoy this podcast and are viewing on YouTube, please like. Hit the subscribe button on your screen and share it with your friends, and feel free to comment below.